So I guess my 5 minutes has started, so I better get after it. Because I said so. We've all heard this, right? Because I said so. Parents scolding their unwieldy children, or someone arguing with you but having no evidence to support their claims. We've all heard this. Turns out, in the education space, educational technology companies, vendors, product providers, they often use this same logic when telling a school or a district why they should use their product to improve student learning. Because unfortunately, to date, no offense to the marketers out here, but marketing has been more important than merit in terms of driving sales in ed tech. However, imagine a world where schools and districts are actually equipped with the tools and resources they need to make informed decisions about their educational technology spending. Things that can actually inform continuous improvement within the schools and make sure that we can actually personalize learning for every student and every learner. Unfortunately, it's not the case. Right now we're spending approximately $14 billion a year on educational technology products, K-12 across the nation, and achievement has remained relatively flat. If you go beyond these data and start to do some additional analyses, some deeper dives, you also see some glaring inequities, some glaring gaps, some very pronounced gaps in educational achievement and access to ed tech products that work, especially for underserved populations. So this issue is why we got together and built a company and a platform, Learn. We got together educators, researchers, technologists, all to fight for this mission of providing equitable access to education that actually works. And to do so in a way that's rigorous yet practical. It's research that's actually made actionable. And through leveraging research, we built multiple frameworks, built multiple models. We leverage extant research, standing upon the shoulders of giants, to build tools and resources for educators to use in their classrooms, for schools and districts to use. A few examples. We have a Chrome extension that anytime an educator or an administrator or student visits an ed tech product website or logs into their product, it kicks us back data. We get about approximately 30 to 60,000 hits per minute. Our databases ran up into the billions. So we have a lot of data on who's using what, when, and how. Another one is a rubric. We built a rubric to allow educators to evaluate the educational technologies that they're using. We've had over 10,000 grades for different products on these 8 core criteria that matter most. We're going beyond this 4.2 stars, which what does that mean, into things that actually matter like ease of use of navigation, technical merit, alignment with learning outcomes. So we're generating a ton of insight from this. We also have IMPACT. IMPACT is a long acronym. We love acronyms in the education space. Integrated metrics producing analytics on classroom technologies. It's a mouthful. But basically this is a rapid cycle evaluation engine that schools and districts can use to generate evidence on the interventions that they're using, whether it's an ed tech product or a different courseware. So we can actually start to run these analyses and see what's working, when, and for whom. So is it actually improving on average? And it also you can do subgroup analysis to determine, which students is this product most successful in which situations. So with these tools and resources, in addition to others, we are attempting to build a framework. We are building the framework. It's called Personalized Learning at Scale. And what we want to be able to do is use these insights to scale effective educational practices and help personalize education for every student so that he or she gets what they need in order to succeed and learn and perform. What it is, it's based off the Tuckman model. I'm not sure if you've all heard of the Tuckman model. I'm sure there's familiarity out here. But basically it's a team dynamics, group dynamics, team effectiveness. It also applies to organization performance. And you go through these 4 stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. So we've applied this to the education technology space based on tons of analyses, tons of insights, tons of analytics to start to understand that this is the same cycle most organizations, education organizations, go through when implementing digital technology. They start exploring and then they go all the way down the spectrum to personalizing. So we're trying to use our platform to give educators, schools, districts an opportunity to figure out how to scale what's working, and so that they can actually provide personalized learning for all students so we can improve the education space across the nation. I guess I kept it within 5 minutes.
You did, right on the money there.
Nice.
Excellent, nice work. So I'm gonna, okay, there we go. Now we're live. Awesome. So some questions for Dr. Stanhope. We'll come back here to the guy in the NC State hat. You're up first.
So when you're doing personalized learning for students, would the students be interacting with a product from you or through their teachers who've interacted with you?
We don't sell digital products that support learning. We don't sell the digital courseware. We are just a platform through which the schools and districts can actually analyze the products that they're using. So we look at how much they're using different products and then to what extent those products are actually working to improve the educational outcomes of interest. So we would basically be providing information on what's working in their classrooms and break that down into what's working when and under which conditions. Does that make sense?
Excellent. Next question here.
You mentioned up front that this was evidence-based. Can you give a good example of what you mean by that, where somebody picked a product based on your analytics and actually had a positive result?
Yeah, definitely. So the impact model I talked about, the rapid cycle evaluation engine, it's built on multiple scientific and experimental approaches to running an evaluation that a traditional evaluation would do as well, but it allows you to do it rapidly. We've had thousands of schools run hundreds of analyses on dozens of products. So one example would be, I don't want to call out the product, but it's a reading literacy product, one of the main ones. It's in a district, a large district, top 20 district, was scaling this out across 18 of their schools, and then they had an additional 18 schools not use the product, so kind of a classical controlled study. And we were able to run the evaluation to see, the overall effect size of the product on the average across the entire student the sample, as well as some additional analytics on what's working when and for whom. So is it working for my ELA students, or is it working for my historically low performing students to help close that achievement gap? So yeah, we collect the data. We usually get usage data from the product company, educational outcome data. We typically think of achievement, but it could be anything. From the schools or districts or from state assessments, and then we'll bring in covariates, any kind of covariate, whether it's demographic variable or if we think of free and reduced price lunch types of variables as well. We can include those types of variables to run the analysis.
All right, next question is back here by the blue sign.
First of all, thank you so much for what you guys do. I think it's awesome what you're trying to achieve. In light of recent issues with Facebook and privacy and things like that, how do you deal, or have you had any issues with working with minors and privacy and information, and how have you approached that?
Of course, data privacy security is of utmost concern to us. That's legal speak, by the way. So we are very interested in it, and it is a very important thing that we've, from the beginning of the foundation of the organization, we started around 4 years ago. From the foundation, we wanted to make sure that we did not have any issues with security breaches. All the technology aspects are extremely important, and we're also working with a lot of organizations, one called Project Unicorn, and there are other data standard, data interoperability, all that type of stuff. We're working hand in hand with a lot of them to help build out some additional standards to improve the system that we have as well. But it is a good question. It's something we are chiefly concerned about. And a lot of the times when we're collecting analysis through customer success and implementation teams, that's one thing they really hone in on, is removing any kind of personally identifiable information, or stripping it so that we just get the data we need, that we can't actually link it back to individual students.
All right, last question will be coming back here down the middle aisle. Coming your way. You get the last question for Dr. Stanhope.
In the school systems, the teachers are already doing a lot of work. They don't have enough time. So how much more work you're adding by using your tool?
It's a great question, and when building a product, it's really hard to sell it to people when you're just adding more work for them, right? So it is definitely a concern. But it's not typically the educator. So the educator will actually do some of the courseware digital product evaluations through the rubric, but then there's typically an administrator who runs the different analyses, and we have a customer success and implementation team who works very closely with them to make sure that we get everything from them in a way that isn't adding additional work. And it typically shows that based on the systematic approach for running the analyses and collecting the data we're collecting and getting the different analytics, it actually ends up saving them more time in the end because we bring order to the chaos. We always talk about organizing, streamlining, and analyzing the different products. Well, that organizational piece is an important part because we actually give them a product library and information on the different products they're using and how much who's using what. So we actually give them information to organize a lot of the stuff they're doing. So it ends up saving them time in the end.
All right, give it up for Dr. Daniel Stanhope.
Thank you.